Have you ever felt completely and utterly stuck? I don't mean just a little bit delayed. I don't mean a traffic jam on a Monday morning. I mean that suffocating, heavy feeling that you are trapped in a box with no windows and no doors. The feeling that no matter which direction you turn, you hit a wall. You try to move forward, blocked. You try to move sideways, blocked. You look up, and you see a ceiling that is too low to stand under. It is a terrifying feeling. It is the feeling of a career that has hit a dead end. It is the feeling of a relationship that is draining you, but you can't seem to leave. It is the creative block that makes you feel like you will never have a good idea again. It is the feeling that your life has shrunk, that your potential is being squeezed out of you by circumstances you cannot control. I felt that way recently. And that is why when I saw this seed fall into this crack, I couldn't look away. I want you to look closely at where this seed landed. It didn't land in a fertile meadow. It didn't land in a soft, warm garden bed prepared by a gardener. It fell into an abyss. It fell deep into a jagged, narrow fracture between two massive slabs of cold, gray concrete. From the moment it landed, its fate seemed sealed. It was a death sentence. There is no soil down there. There is very little water. And worst of all, there is almost no light. It is a tomb. If you were a betting person, you would bet everything against this seed. You would say there is no way out. And for the first few weeks, that is exactly what it looked like. Nothing happened. The seed sat in the dark, swallowed by the stone. I imagined the silence down there. The crushing, claustrophobic silence. I watched it, and I saw my own struggles reflected in that tiny trapped object. I thought about how often we scream at our circumstances. We get angry at the walls. We curse the rock. We cry about how unfair it is that we landed here, while others landed in the soft grass. We waste so much energy banging our fists against the reality of our situation, wishing it were different. But nature doesn't waste energy complaining. Nature doesn't have an ego that gets bruised when things don't go its way. Nature only knows one command: survive. And so, the seed cracked open. Now, this is where the story gets painful. If this seed had sprouted in an open field, it would have sent a shoot straight up, tall and proud, reaching for the sun in a straight line. That is the easy path. That is the path of privilege. But down here, in this crack, a straight line is impossible. I watched through my macro lens as the tiny sprout emerged. It tried to go up, and immediately it hit the stone overhang. Thud. A dead end. Imagine that panic. You are born, you try to grow, and the very first thing you experience is a ceiling hitting you in the head. But here's the miracle. It didn't stop. It didn't die of shock. It didn't try to push the rock. It knew it couldn't move the mountain, so it did something else. It changed itself. It bent. The stem, which should have been straight, twisted itself into a painful-looking curve. It contorted. It spiraled. It turned its body into a liquid shape, searching desperately for any tiny gap, any microscopic weakness in the stone prison. Watching it was uncomfortable. It looked agonizing. It looked like the plant was torturing itself. It had to become deformed to survive. It had to abandon the idea of what a perfect plant looks like. A perfect plant is straight. This plant had to become crooked. And that hit me hard. How often do we stay stuck because we refuse to let go of our idea of how things should be? We have a picture in our heads of how our career should look like, how our life should look like. And when reality blocks that picture, we freeze. We keep trying to force the straight line. We keep banging our heads against the rock, trying to force the world to yield to us. This plant taught me that when you are stuck, stubbornness is not a virtue. Stubbornness is a death sentence. Flexibility is the only way out. The plant found a hairline fracture in the concrete, a tiny, jagged path that zigzagged to the left. It wasn't the way it wanted to go. It wasn't up. It was sideways. It was a detour, but it was a path. So the plant followed it. It squeezed its tender, pale body through a gap so narrow that it scraped its own skin. It adapted. It became thin where it needed to be thin. It became twisted where it needed to twist. It surrendered its form to the environment. It said to the rock, "I will not try to break you. I will flow through you." Weeks went by. The struggle in the dark continued.
There were moments I thought it had died. It stopped moving for days, likely gathering energy, likely resting from the exhaustion of the climb. But then, I saw a change in color. Deep down in the crack, the tip of the plant, which had been a sickly pale white due to the lack of light, suddenly turned a faint pale green. It had found it. It had found the surface. The final push was the hardest. It had to squeeze through the final opening, a gap barely millimeters wide. It pushed with a strength that seems impossible for something so fragile. It is the paradox of nature. The softest things are often the strongest. Water cuts through rock, roots shatter concrete. And then, the breakthrough. I will never forget the moment those first leaves unfolded on the surface of the cold gray stone. They didn't look like the leaves of a pampered garden plant. They were smaller. They were tougher. They had a grit to them. But when the sunlight hit them, oh, they glowed. They glowed with a victory that a garden plant will never understand. That plant standing there, growing out of a rock, is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Not because it is perfect, but because it is impossible. It is a living testament to the fact that there is no such thing as a true dead end. There are only difficult turns. If you are watching this and you feel stuck right now, I want you to look at this plant. You might be in a dark place. You might feel the walls closing in. You might feel like you have hit a ceiling and you can't grow anymore. But I am telling you, you are not buried. You are planted. And maybe the reason you feel stuck is because you are trying to grow in a straight line in a crooked world. Maybe you are trying to force a door open when there is a window slightly ajar to your left. This plant is telling you to stop being so rigid. Stop trying to force your life to look the way you planned it 5 years ago. That plant is the rock. That plant is the wall. Let it go. Be like the water. Be like this stem. Twist if you have to twist. Bend if you have to bend. Change your shape. Pivot. Try a different angle. If you can't go up, go sideways. If you can't go forward, go around. Adaptability is your superpower. Look at how the plant owns its space now. It has claimed the rock as its home. It has turned its prison into a pedestal. It is thriving not despite the obstacle, but because the obstacle forced it to become stronger, more creative, and more resilient than it ever would have been in a safe garden. The scars on its stem are not signs of damage. They are maps of its journey. They are proof that it didn't quit when it hit the dark. So if you are in the dark right now, don't panic. Don't stop moving. Feel for the cracks. Look for the tiny slivers of light. They are there. You might have to change to fit through them. You might have to leave behind the person you used to be. You might have to become something new, something different, something unexpected. But that is not a tragedy. That is evolution. Keep pushing. Keep searching for the light. Keep twisting and turning until you find your way out. Because the view from the other side of the obstacle, it is magnificent. And the person you will become by the time you break through, that person will be unbreakable. You are not stuck. You are just finding your own unique way to the sun.